The dense forest stretched endlessly, a labyrinth of towering trees and tangled underbrush. Its beauty was breathtaking but held a sinister edge, especially when night began to fall. For 3 hikers, the serene wilderness had turned into a confounding maze. Sarah, David, and Mia, a group of friends in search of adventure, had set out early that morning with bright spirits and an ambitious trail in mind. The plan was simple: a day hike through the renowned Pinewood Forest and back to the campsite by sunset. But nature had other plans. It started with a wrong turn, a fork in the trail they hadn't seen on their map. The trio, confident in their sense of direction, decided to press on, believing the path would loop back. Hours passed, and the dense trees began to look hauntingly similar, their once pleasant hike now overshadowed by an unsettling realization. They were lost. As the sunlight faded and the temperature dropped, panic began to creep in. "We should have turned back hours ago," Mia said, her voice trembling. She clutched her jacket tighter around her, glancing nervously at the shadows stretching across the forest floor. David, the self-proclaimed leader, tried to maintain composure. "We'll be fine," he reassured. "We just need to find a clearing and figure out where we are. Let's keep moving." Sarah, usually the optimistic one, stayed quiet, her flashlight beam darting through the encroaching darkness. She felt the weight of their situation sinking in. They had limited supplies, no cell signal, and no clear sense of direction. The trio trudged on, their footsteps crunching against fallen leaves and twigs. Every sound, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of an animal, seemed amplified in the stillness of the night. Fear gnawed at their resolve, but they didn't dare stop. They needed hope, a sign, anything to guide them back to safety. Then, amidst the oppressive darkness, they noticed a faint glimmer. Perched on a low branch, not far ahead was an owl, its round amber eyes glowing in the moonlight. It was an eastern screech owl, its feathers a mottled blend of browns and grays that allowed it to blend seamlessly with the bark. The hikers paused, captivated by the creature's presence. There was something almost ethereal about it, as if it had appeared for a reason. "It's beautiful," Sarah whispered, her fear momentarily replaced by awe. The owl hooted softly, a sound that echoed through the silence. Then, to their astonishment, it took flight, circling above them before gliding gracefully to another branch further ahead. It perched there, turning its head to look back at them, as if waiting. "That's strange," David murmured. "It's almost like it wants us to follow." Mia, desperate for any semblance of guidance, said, "Maybe we should. What if it knows the way out?" It was a ludicrous thought, but with no better options, the trio decided to follow the owl. Step by cautious step, they trailed the bird as it moved from branch to branch, pausing just long enough for them to catch up before continuing. The forest, though still intimidating, seemed less menacing with the owl leading the way. Hours passed, or perhaps it was mere minutes. Time felt distorted in their state of exhaustion and fear. The owl's silent flight and steady gaze became their beacon, its presence oddly comforting. It felt as if the bird understood their plight, guiding them with a sense of purpose. As they walked, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on the situation. She thought of her family, of the life she'd taken for granted. Each step felt heavier, with the weight of regret and longing. Mia clung to the hope that the owl was a sign from her late grandmother, who had always loved birds and believed they carried messages from the beyond. David, though skeptical, couldn't deny the peculiar timing of the owl's appearance. The forest began to change subtly. The dense trees gave way to a more open area, and the air grew less oppressive. The hikers noticed a faint sound in the distance, the unmistakable rush of running water. The owl led them to a small creek, its clear waters reflecting the starlight. It was a lifeline, providing not only a source of hydration, but also a possible route to civilization. "Thank you," Mia whispered, tears streaming down her face as she gazed at the owl. It hooted softly in response, then took flight once more, beckoning them to continue. Following the creek downstream, they felt a renewed sense of hope. The owl remained their guide, its presence unwavering. It led them to a break in the trees, where the first hints of dawn painted the sky in hues of orange and pink. In the distance, they spotted smoke rising, a sign of human activity. Overcome with relief, the trio quickened their pace. The forest opened up to reveal a small cabin, its chimney puffing gently. An elderly man stepped onto the porch, his weathered face breaking into a kind smile as he saw the weary hikers approach. "You must be lost," he said, his voice warm. "Come inside, let's get you some food and rest." As they stepped into the safety of the cabin, they turned to look for the owl, but it was gone. Its absence was bittersweet, a reminder of the mysterious force that had guided them through the darkest night of their lives. Days later, after they'd recovered and reunited with their families, the hikers couldn't stop thinking about the owl. They shared their story with others, who were equally amazed and moved. Some called it coincidence, others a miracle. But to Sarah, David, and Mia, the owl was more than just a bird. It was a symbol of hope, resilience, and the unexplainable connections that bind all living beings. Again, its memory remained etched in their hearts. It had led them back to civilization, but more importantly, it had reminded them of the profound beauty and mystery of life. And in the quiet moments of their lives, when the world seemed overwhelming, they'd close their eyes and remember the owl's amber gaze, a beacon of light in their darkest hour. But the story didn't end there. For years, the trio kept in touch, their bond strengthened by the shared ordeal. Each year, they returned to Pinewood Forest to hike the same trail, now equipped with better maps, compasses, and gear. Though they never encountered the owl again, they found solace in revisiting the place where their lives had changed. On one such visit, they met a local researcher named Emily, who specialized in the behavior of eastern screech owls. Intrigued by their story, Emily explained how owls often display territorial behavior, but their guide seemed to act out of character. "It's almost as if it had a higher purpose," Emily mused. Her words reignited the hikers' sense of wonder and deepened their gratitude for their feathered savior. Sarah, inspired by the owl's guidance, began volunteering at a wildlife rehabilitation center. She found immense joy in helping injured animals recover, often wondering if one of the owls she cared for could be connected to her mysterious encounter. Mia turned her grandmother's love for birds into a series of paintings, each capturing the owl's piercing amber eyes. Her work resonated with many, spreading hope and inspiration. David, now a dedicated environmentalist, worked tirelessly to protect natural habitats, driven by the memory of their miraculous escape. The trio's lives were forever intertwined with the owl's legacy. They became storytellers, sharing their experience with anyone who would listen. Schools, community centers, and even national parks invited them to speak about the importance of respecting nature and the unexplainable connections that unite us with the wild. One chilly autumn evening, decades after their fateful hike, Sarah received a call from David. His voice carried excitement. "You won't believe this," he said. "Mia and I were hiking in Pinewood Forest and we saw an owl. It had amber eyes, just like the one that guided us." Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she listened. The three friends agreed to meet at the forest once more, their hearts filled with anticipation and gratitude. When they arrived, they stood together in the clearing by the creek, the memories flooding back. As dusk settled, the unmistakable hoot of an owl echoed through the trees. Looking up, they saw it, an owl perched on a branch, its amber eyes glowing in the fading light. It felt like a reunion, a reminder that the bonds they'd formed with nature and each other were timeless. The trio stood silently, their hearts full, knowing they'd been part of something extraordinary, something that would stay with them forever. The owl flew off into the twilight, its silhouette blending with the night sky. And though it disappeared from sight, its presence lingered, a silent guardian watching over them. It wasn't just a bird, it was a miracle, a gift from the wild, a symbol of hope that would live in their hearts forever.